All right, hello everybody. Tommy Williams here. Do the recap for the Ross Barnett tournament. What a place. Man, did it fish tough for me. Another tough tournament in a row. It's two in a row for me. I tell you, that place was very tough to get around on. Matter of fact, it was pretty treacherous. Once you get out of the boat lanes on it, you be prepared to run into stuff. You hit a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stumps in the lake. Anybody's been to Toledo Bend, Fork, places, it's really got the trees. Sandy Cooper, it was a lot like that. One of the problems I had down there was trying to find the fish. Is like 2/3 of that whole lake was just dead water. It was, there was 2 feet of mud flat for just miles up the west side of the lake, which, unbeknownst to me and several other anglers out there was just nothing there. So we spent time looking in places that there was just no fish, and it seemed to me like the lake was cut into two portions by a causeway. There was the lower end of the lake, the upper end of the lake, considering the river end of the lake. And it had a lot of backwater, it had a lot of laydowns, had a lot of cypress trees, had a lot of grass, had a lot of moss, frog water. Looked good. Catching them in there, not so good. We were on the backside of a full moon, so water was in the 70s, 75 or so. We was looking at the last little bit of spawn that was coming in. It was going to be a small wave. I didn't pick up on it. I never did pick up on it. Obviously, the guys that had the big bags did, and I understand how they caught them was pretty tough. I mean, it was like sit in one spot and do this for hours. And I never did find that bite. I really never even looked for it. This was a post spawn deal. I mean, most of the fish in this tournament that were catchable fish were dead up on the bankers next to something simply because the water was so dirty. You could see down about that far. The lake was just chocolate milk from the dam up the river as far as you want to go, up every arm, everything in it. If you got the sun shining and the wind wasn't blowing, you might could see down maybe 10 inches. Muddy. Problem with that is we got a post spawn deal. When them fish, 90% of those fish is already spawned out. And where'd they go? They went straight to the ledges. And 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 I promise you, I was looking for them. And I was out there on the secondary ledges, taking my HDS 12s and going over them. And let me tell you, they were there. They were stacked up on them. The problem with it is you can see down about that far. I mean, it was mud. And every point, every turn, every good breakage you went over out offshore had fish stacked up on it. Now, I can't tell you they were bass because I never could give them the bite. And I was looking for them pretty hard because they obviously the fish had left the bank. And there was only one other place for them to go, and that's to get out there on them ledges. And most of the ledges I found that they were stacked up on them pretty good. But I mean, you throw a big crankbait on them, you run a big spinner bait on them, you throw a swim bait on them that long, and something they can try to see maybe. And I couldn't even get one really to react uh, because it was just muddy. I mean, on Kentucky Lake, we're catching them on the ledges. Lake turns muddy, you're done. I mean, you go to the hill. I mean, because you're going to be in bad shape. But I looked for that bite probably too much because I found so much of it out there in the lake that I felt like that if I could just find a group of fish out here that I could get them to hit a big spinner bait. I mean, I was throwing a number 8 Colorado, number 8 willows on a chartreuse firecracker, throwing it out there. And maybe you can see this, but it was just muddy. I mean, so there was just very little we could do with them at all. The guys that did well obviously caught the fish where they were coming in for the last little bit of spawn. I never copped onto that bite. I really didn't look for it that hard. I could go to the bank and catch a few fish. Now, every once in a while, you caught a big one doing that. I mean, maybe a 5-pounder, which was obviously a very big deal on that lake. There just wasn't enough of them for me. I could go in there and fish. It's one of those deals you can pull into the bank and like, pow, oh, all of a sudden just catch a 5-pounder on the first laydown you come to. Well, that's great, but then you go fish 3 miles of it down through there and you don't have another bite. You do that 2 or 3 days in a row, throughout the day, and you're like that, get out of here. What I found was a shad spawn. I found some causeway, some riprap up in the river portion of the lake that actually had some fish on it, and I could go up there with a spinnerbait When the wind, imagine that, me throwing a spinnerbait. But when the wind was blowing and it was blowing against them rocks really good, the shad would get up against them. And it was kind of the same thing I did at Cherokee. I would take my HDS and I would run down it with my side scan, and I would find the little deep spots wherever it was a little bit deeper. And on Ross Barnett, that was a very big deal. I mean, because most of it was a foot and a half, 2 foot deep. But if you could find one that dropped off to 3 to 4 feet, whether it was a culvert or an old roadbed or a creek channel or whatever that actually bumped up to the riprap, there's where your fish were. And it was kind of the same deal we had at Cherokee with the steeper portions of the rock banks. And rock seemed to be a real commodity in that lake too. I don't think I saw a rock in the whole lake other than something somebody throwed over the hill with a riprap. So I could take a spinnerbait in the morning and go down them causeways and get well, and I could catch some pretty good fish on that. And then during when that kind of went away, I could go up in the river, and it wasn't good by no means, but it was something to do. It was, I could go up there and flip a little bit, and I could go up there and throw a frog. Now my frog fish were good fish. I really was liking my chances with the frog fish because they were 4 and 5 pound fish, but there just wasn't very many of them. I mean, you could go and fish an entire slough and get one, maybe two bites out of it. Now they would get it good, but you're talking about spending an hour and an hour and a half in a slough hoping a fish bit. And you know, if he bit, it was a good one. If he didn't bite, you're in trouble. So a little bit, how about what I throw it on the causeway for the spinnerbait fish? Obviously, I was throwing a Douglas rod, 715, 15-pound monofilament. I was throwing Tommy Bug, a double willow leaf, same spinnerbait I throwed at Cherokee, same setup. I mean, I still got the trailer hook. As a matter of fact, that's one of the same spinnerbaits I was throwing on there. What really messed me up on that was the first morning I went out boat 7. So I got to lead the pack down the lake, and I was the first one there where I felt like the shad were going to be spawning the best. And I was the first one on it, and there wasn't anybody else within 200 yards of me. And I turned my GoPro on, and I'm going to try to get some footage up here in a little bit of that. But in 4 minutes into the day, I put a 4.5 pounder over the gunnel on that spinnerbait right here. And I was looked down through there, and I was like, well, I've been fishing for 5 minutes, and I done got a 4.5 in the boat. So I got 250, 300 yards more of this right here. I may just get ready to just pound them. It was 12 o'clock before I caught my next fish. Ouch. They were gone. I don't know what happened to them. I met a guy that I was rooming with halfway down the causeway. He met me at the far end. We kind of met in the middle and passed, and I didn't catch any behind him. He didn't catch any behind me, and we met on the opposite side and kind of come to the conclusion that this ain't going to work. So, you know, and I have bet the tournament on that shad spawn, and for some reason they didn't happen. And what held me there was right off the bat. I catch a 4.5. I mean, right off the bat. I mean, it's like, yeah, we're going to smash them. We didn't at all. Caught maybe 6 or 7 shorts, and by 10 o'clock I was on my way out there. I done left it. I done fished everything twice that was there. You know, it was 6 or 7 deep spots down through there that I could at least catch maybe a Kentucky off of or something. Everything dried up. Everything. I went up in a river, and what I was using up there was my frogging rod, the Douglas again. Douglas 745, 20-pound mono. Wrong rod. Here she is. Plain old black frog, chartreuse, and black legs on it. 20-pound mono, 745 Douglas rod. And you had to just go out there and just fish it. I mean, it wasn't no set technique to it to throw it out there and do the frog thing until one got it. They got it good. But it just was so far and few between. They were good fish when they got it. You know, they were the ones you needed. But there was just so few of them. And as the water was falling throughout the week, that bite got less and less and less. And then come tournament time, I really didn't have much company in the back of those backwaters. because everybody done figured out that the fish had left and were gone, and I was just trying to catch cleanups in there. But the cleanups were good ones. But unfortunately, I only caught one, and you spend a lot of time doing it. Now, on the first day being out boat 7, that means I had to be in at 2 o'clock. It means that I had to leave around 1:30, which means I had a very short day. So after I caught one fish on a frog, and it was a 3-pound fish. I mean, it was a good one. And I run back to the wall one more time, went back to the rocks just to check it one more time, and I caught a keeper Kentucky on a blade off of a point on the bridge, and they give me 3. And that's what I had to go in with. That was my day, and it was not a very good day. You know, I guess it was good. We didn't tear nothing up, but we didn't get the bites like what I thought we would get. I don't know why those fish all of a sudden decided not to be on the rocks that morning, but they did. On the second morning, I went right back to them again, and being hard-headed, I went right back to them thinking maybe I was a timing thing. They fed early or something. I went right back to them, and I fished them for about 2 hours with a spinnerbait and backed off of them a little bit with a buzz bait and what have you, but I never had a bite and never had a keeper. And luckily, I had a long day that day since I went out boat 7 the first day. I mean, I'm coming in very last on the second day. I mean, I got to fish till like 5 o'clock or 5:30 or something like that. It was a fairly long day. Well, that afforded me the time to go play around in the backwaters looking for the frogfish, thinking, well, if I can catch just 2 or 3 of these frogfish back here, maybe I can pull myself out of this hole. Never happened. Never had a blow up. Nothing. I never had a blow up. I fished them for 3 hours in about 5 different holes and never had a blow up. Outstanding. It's getting on around 2 o'clock, and I'm like, there was a front move. The wind started blowing. Got cloudy. I left the river, went straight back to the rocks. They're coming. They've got to come. And they're going to come sometime or the other. Went straight back to them, picked a spinnerbait up. There wasn't nobody around. Went down the wall again, nothing. Wind blowing against it, shad all over the place, nothing. Way it happens. So I left there, and I was like, well, I'm out of time. I got like an hour left to fish. And I left there, and I was like, well, I caught a fish right around the corner here out of a pocket in practice. I had to flip them out. I mean, I was punching the gator grass, and it wasn't good by no means, but I was like, I got an hour to spend. Let's go do something at least halfway productive here. And understand, I don't have a fish in the live well. I mean, it's been a long day. So I go to my flipping fish, 765 Douglas, 20-pound big game. Same, I think this is the same setup I used at the James, but just a Cinco, quarter-ounce sinker, something that would fall through that grass pretty well, something I could pitch in them holes and it would go down through it. And immediately I caught 4 keepers in like 15 minutes. It was ridiculous. I was like, are you kidding me? I've been out here beating my head in all day, and they done put a roof over their head, and they're underneath the mats. Well, I never got my 5th one. I caught my 4th one at like none time left, and I had to go, and I had a couple that were like 14 and 7/8 that were just, yeah, I mean, just that right there. Just enough to aggravate you that you had to put them back, and it kept me from catching the limit. I mean, I would have done it, and if I could have made one more pass in the pocket, I'm sure I could have caught one more out of there. And but nevertheless, I was out of time. I was looking for something to do, and that just kind of salvaged my day. And I pulled it off with a flipping stick, for which I haven't caught a fish all week. I mean, nothing to amount to anything all week on. So Ross Barnett and me didn't get along. I think I spoke earlier about in my James River recap about a guy named Alfred Williams, and I didn't get to meet him. I seen him, but I didn't get to meet the man. He's a legend in his own time, but he showed them. I think he caught a big sack of them down there for all 3 days. I think he did a very good job. My execution in this tournament, fine. I never lost a fish, even on the frogs. I mean, never lost a fish, never missed a fish. Everything it hit went in over the gunnel. That's a plus, I guess. But I really didn't get on get with those fish down there. You know, the lake seemed like it's got a few fish in it, but they was I banked on that ledge bite too much. I kept thinking that I could make them bite. I could get them with a drop shot. I could get over top of them because they were definitely there. You could every point you went over, you could see them out there. They just stacked up just perfectly. If it was on Kentucky Lake, we'd have been smashing them. But they just wouldn't bite in that dirty water. And I thought, well, maybe the dirty water, they're accustomed to it here. And so I spent too much time on it. And nevertheless, because I felt like if I would have had it to myself, but it didn't happen. Anyway, we got a little break now. Yay. And we get to go to Oneida up in New York next. That'll be outstanding. We're going on 4th of July week. That'll even be more outstanding. And I can't wait to get up there. I did good up there last year. And it's going to be my style of fishing again, I hope. We had a tough practice, but we figured it out about 2 days before the tournament. And hopefully we can get up there and do it again this year. Syracuse has been good to me. Douglas Rods will be up there. I'll be coming in and seeing all the good guys at Douglas Rods, seeing Caleb and Kevin and everybody working at the Douglas Rods, and can't wait to go up there and browse through the factory and see all the new stuff. It's like a kid in a candy factory. It's like, yeah. So anyway, guys, y'all keep posted, and I will see you all soon. Take care.